So I'd like to welcome you to the Unmasked Relationship Factor Series. I am AliNICOLE WOW, also known as Majesty, and I am a certified relationship counselor and also certified in relationship psychology. And one of the main reasons why I am providing this series is because there are a lot of unseen dynamics that take place in relationships that are often not talked about. And so wanted to uncover some of those unseen dynamics and provide some empowerment and encourage you to do the inner work to come up with your own solutions, because a lot of times advice is offered and people try to follow advice from counselors and therapists, but ultimately the answers are really within you. But it doesn't hurt to have someone to actually shine the light on some of the hidden things, the unseen dynamics. So what I want to talk about actually during this particular segment, and a variety of topics may come up. I never actually really have anything planned, but to come on and be in the space for a few moments to see what arises. And what's coming up initially is to talk about leveling up to date up. And the reason why this is important is because a lot of times people say, I need to date up. I need to find someone who's kind of out of my league, and which that's not a bad thing at all. But one thing I would encourage is that people actually take the time to level up as they are trying to date up. So it's not the wisest thing to find someone who is out of your league and then start actually trying to date them and sort of level yourself up on their watch, all right, on their time, all right? I don't advise anyone to try to be a guinea pig in a scenario, even if that person kind of would allow it, you know. I think that it's best that you find someone who is sort of like a template, and then you start to do the work yourself so that you can sort of level up and be able to bring to the table the things that you need to be on that same level. Now, let me speak to this, because this is not about trying to match them perfectly, because there will be some areas that you have together that maybe they don't, right? And you both can complement, each other. However, you really have to examine what those areas are, right? So let's say that you don't have your money game together or so. Well, and you want to date up, you want to, and this goes whether it's a male or female, you want to date someone rich, right? Not saying that you have to be on their same financial level or bracket, but you want to make sure that you are in a place yourself that is stable, all right? And that you are being a good steward of your finances and managing your time, resources, your money. You want to make sure that you do have great currency character in that area for sure. So that if you enter into a relationship with someone who's well off, well-to-do, and they are very much established and they are good stewards of their currency factor, then you don't want to be in that relationship. And I'm not saying like as an opportunist or anything, but that's one of the areas you really don't want to be intimidated by someone who has their stuff together, but you're trying to kind of level up in that area. Now, again, this is really just referring case by case in a sense. There are some situations where this will work. But again, my encouragement would not be to try to jump into things that you yourself can't bring a certain level to the table, that would really make it a win-win. So something else, like let's say personal development, right? Because that's a very key area. So if you want someone, you see someone who's very positive, very successful at being who they are, and then you're thinking like, I really want to date a person of this caliber. Again, that's fine. But instead of actually trying to go out and date them, start doing your own level up, start doing your prep work and make it an embodiment of who you are. You know, don't just develop it for the sake of trying to get with that person. Know that it's an opportunity for you to become the best version of yourself. And so in becoming the best version of yourself, then you can align with someone who is already there. Or maybe you both can level up together in a certain way, but then I wouldn't necessarily call that dating up, all right? But again, dating up really depends on the specific area. What does dating up mean to you? What does that look like? Because that's going to be different, you know, for everybody. It's an individual thing. But I do want to reiterate that, yeah, if you see someone and you say, really, I really want to be with someone like that, again, you really need to do the work. Do not make it a point to try to jump into something and be the guinea pig and to then say to that person, hey, I really want to develop a certain way and I want to become better. And, you know, maybe if I get with you, that will help me become better, you know. I would say friend up in a sense before dating up, because there are times where people will allow certain people within even their inner circles that are maybe not on their same level in certain areas, and you know, and they don't mind a person kind of being in the space that is really trying to level themselves up, but also too they could enjoy your company for other things that you bring to the table. You know, my thing is all about creating the win-win, and people need to create scenarios for themselves that create the win-win, not just for themselves, but for the other parties as well. So you can't always think about yourself. So how this relates to a lot of the unseen dynamics that go on even in this particular area is because you'll have people who will approach people already sort of acting like they are at a certain level and give kind of this false narrative, present a false narrative in a sense of being something that they really aren't. And then playing out a role of not necessarily the fake it till you make it, but it is just kind of playing out, you know, playing out a role that's really not authentic. And then seeing at some point they can't really be consistent with that. And the relationship can start great, but then it can start to break down. One of these the reasons for this is because the person does not have the character developed as an embodiment of who they are. And so they're using a situation to try to see if I can be on this level. And again, what I'm saying is no, don't try to see if you can be on this level. Actually go and do the work. Now, sometimes people will think, well, but if I do that, I'm going to miss out. No, you if it's for you, you're not going to miss out, because what will happen is that you can leverage that type of fear energy, and it's not going to be beneficial, where you're like, okay, I'm going to try to date this person. This is a good opportunity. I better jump on this because this may not, you know, happen again. But then if you get in that relationship and you aren't really ready and you are not prepared for the relationship, then you can get in it, of course, and then it can start off a certain way. Then it could end up worse, where if you actually took the time to develop yourself and allow yourself to level up, then that person could cycle back around into your experience, or you can cultivate something with them to maybe let them know that you're interested in to a certain extent, but not necessarily trying to pursue them, because you're leveling up yourself to be the best version of yourself. And again, a byproduct would be that you land in a relationship that is a match to who you have become. So this is really important, because again, people behind the scenes a lot of times are trying to put themselves in scenarios, or put themselves in positions where they start trying to get with someone, and again start playing out these different roles, and all the while knowing that they really aren't who they say they're being, during that time. So because I brought that up, let me speak to this too, because sometimes there are people who are actually deceiving themselves, being very delusional, where they think, oh, I am this type of person, and clearly they're not. That's why it's important to know yourself. It's important to do the inner work consistently, so that you can be honest, so that you can be truthful about where you are. And regardless if you are somewhere within your walk, your journey that you don't really prefer, you don't have to judge yourself about not being a certain way. But again, you do have to apply yourself and now do what it takes to actually become that person. And you would be surprised. A lot of times you actually can accelerate your growth, accelerate the transformation. And that's a whole nother subject. But that is possible. So it doesn't mean that doing the work on yourself has to take a long time. When you're able to become more self-aware, then you know the best ways to align yourself with what's going to be most appropriate for you to accurately level yourself up. All right. But going back to something that I said earlier, is that you can see someone that you admire, someone that you say, hey, I gotta level myself up. I need to date up. You can see them and use them as a template, meaning that's kind of a prototype, if you will, of someone who, I would love to date this type of person. But you don't necessarily go after that type of person or look at that's going to be the person that I end up with. Again, they can just be leveraged as a template. And then you can kind of pretend to date them in a sense, meaning that you can, and I'm not talking about like in some type of spooky, crazy type of way. I'm just using this as an example that definitely you can have in your mind, okay, I'm dating this type of person. Who would I have to be to date this type of person? And what type of books does this person read? Or, if they have a profile online, what are they like? And again, not stalking people, not, doing anything of that nature. Just saying you could just look at someone and just say, yes, I would love to date someone like that. And then start, of course, doing, like I said, doing the work. But ultimately the work, and I can't emphasize this enough, the work is really about you becoming who you are supposed to be anyway, right? Because not only in a relationship with dating someone do you want to be the best, you want to be the best version of you in all relationships, right? So let's shine the light on some of the unseen dynamics. And I know I've talked a little bit about, about that. But when you overlook who you are and you are not honest, okay, and this is, I would love to say this leans more towards the males, but honestly, I think it's an even match, in this case, of people not being genuinely honest with themselves. all right? And again, trying to commit to something that they really aren't ready for. And then that really wastes the time of individuals. Sure, for you, the growth may come out that, oh, I wasn't really ready for what I thought I was ready for. And I need to get in that to find that out. Again, I don't recommend that. I definitely recommend you actually coming to the table already ready in certain key areas. So here's something around drama. So if you are someone who's been used to drama and then you meet someone who that's not their story and they don't have the drama stuff going on, then don't try to bring a situation to the table where you're trying to get yourself together and you haven't, really done the work around the dramatic type of stuff, And again, scenarios are going to be different, but you do have to really look and examine these things. So before you try to date up, again, make sure that you do the leveling up and take inventory. Be honest. Be honest with yourself. And a situation may present itself where that person is very open to exploring your level up or helping you to level up. Again, you can be compatible, complementary, companionship to one another. But it's just not wise to try to just enter into something like that, trying to be a guinea pig, trying to see if you're cut out for this. And I know that that's not normally the intention, but what they say, the old saying that good intentions pave the pathway to hell. So you can avoid that, right? And prevent any of those types of scenarios playing out by at least doing your part and really and not a microwave process. I know I mentioned that there can be some acceleration around this, but again, it's going to already depend on what your growth status is, in a certain area. This is not about being perfect, but it is about just being honest and not fooling yourself. Okay? Not kidding yourself. Again, you may not be where you want to be, but make sure that you're headed in the right direction before you start trying to incorporate or bring someone else into the picture who already has, like I said, themselves together in some very key areas, all right, the essentials. So you want to make sure that you're doing the work around that. And yes, as you're doing the work, can a relationship materialize where you don't have to have yourself fully together. So, but there needs to be enough of a foundation that has been laid with you that's solid, that this way of beingness is an embodiment. It will be a continuation that you continue to build upon because it's now a part of you, but it's just a newer experience being expressed. To me, that's very different than when it's seemed like a good idea. Oh, I see something I want and I'm going to do this to go after that. So an example, something that's coming to mind, if you've ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and if you remember where Tula saw, which did end up being her future husband, but she saw the gentleman and he became a template for her and she was enamored. But she went and got herself together. But there was already something in her that wanted that anyway. But seeing him expanded that for her, where she knew, if I want to have a life a certain way and someone like him, I have to go and get myself together. So she did that, but she made it a mission about her. She didn't actually try to get herself together and then go find him. What happened was he ended up aligning and meeting up with her. even though she had seen him before, but he didn't even recognize her because she changed so much. She had to reintroduce herself. She had to remind him in the sense of who she was. And so if you haven't seen that movie, it's a throwback. I do recommend, you go and see it. I think it's a really, really good film to watch that really speaks volumes to, this particular subject. So yeah, so again, do the work, and whomever is supposed to come into your world, even if it is the person that you've seen and admire, or you can leverage as a template, even if they're with someone at the time, if it's meant for them to be with you, trust me, they'll cycle back around. You won't miss it, but just do the work, right? Do the work. It's very important. So again, been talking about leveling up to date up, right? And whether you're trying to date out of your league, so to speak, or just level yourself up so that you can just be the best in any type of relationship, right? But regardless, is you need to be doing that anyway. You need to be striving to be the best version of yourself. And this is just not about aligning with your perfect mate. This is about true alignment with you. Another overlooked elephant in the room that most people, they don't address is the relationship with themselves. And I teach a lot on that, have several platforms and publications around that, and the self-love dynamics, the self-relationship dynamics, and being self-aware. When you're self-aware, you can be honest with yourself, right? Which means you can be honest with others. So just unmasking a few core areas. And again, I'm not saying that these topics aren't discussed, but sometimes there are those deeper hidden things that aren't really being addressed, that the spotlight, if you will, needs to be, shine on those particular areas so that people can be honest. And because you want to make the most of your time, you want to maximize not only your time here on earth, you want to maximize relationships, because relationships are currency, right? And so doing your part in investing in who you are, so that when you are in different levels of relationships, you are bringing the divine right value exchange to the situations. You've honored yourself, therefore you can honor others and have that reciprocated back to you. Meaning, if you're showing up that way, you're going to have people that show up that way to you as well, and for you. So I think I'm going to actually leave it there for this particular segment here. But yeah, I'm sure there are other things that I could that I could touch on, but I felt like that was really the one to emphasize and to actually stay here instead of trying to allow other topics to come forth, because I can always address those in some of the other segments. So there will be some information below in the description. You can learn more about me and the works that I do in this particular area. Also, there's a playlist to this series. Definitely avail yourself to that playlist so that you can have the empowerment and the encouragement that you need as you are really taking a look at your relationship with yourself, the relationship that you have with other people, and the relationships that are emerging, right? So until the next segment of this series, I am wishing you well. And as you level up to date up, just make sure that you're immersing yourself fully in the truth and creating new narratives for yourself and living from that place, because you do deserve to have the best. And I even say this, for people who feel like, well, no, I've done some things. I have not been the best in relationships, and I really don't feel deserving or worthy or so. I want you to imagine that there's another part of you that is unblemished, if you will, that has maybe not made all of those mistakes or so, but at the same time, you can learn and take those mistakes and say, okay, but I'm starting anew. And don't hold yourself prisoner to the past. Now, you may not be able to go back and, rekindle or resurrect relationships that have been, I guess, damaged by you or so. You played a major part, but you can start anew. But that does mean, again, regardless, you have to do the work. I feel like I'm going to start going into a whole nother topic. So I better save that for another segment. But I just did feel guided to emphasize that. It's that, you can start anew, but starting anew could look completely different with new people, and different things. But give yourself that higher advantage during this time to keep leveling yourself up. Forgive yourself. Let the past be in the past. Keep moving forward and maximize, make the best out of the time that you have now. All right, so that's going to do it for this particular segment. And I look forward to being back with you soon.